What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cage My IQ. As always, I'm your host, D Bake. Joining with me once again is my co-host, James DiLullo. How's it going, James?
It's going, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I've had one hell of a week. Of course, we went to Dynamite. That was fun.
Yep.
Watched some fights, and then even had a comeback in my fantasy football league. So epic comeback. So it's been a week, a week of the ages for me. How about yourself?
Yeah, man. Watched a ton of fights. Got a 2 o'clock card last week that we talked about. Really did terrible on my picks. Also, you know, a lot of fights kind of fell through. We had the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight, which was epic. My Alabama Crimson Tide lost to Texas A&M, so that sucked. But overall, it's been a pretty good week. The Birds won, Eagles won, so that was great.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling into this week optimistic, feeling good. We got another great card coming up, and we'll see where we go.
Uh, as you know, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night, which is headlined by Norma Dumont versus Aspen Ladd. It was supposed to be Holly Holm versus Norma Dumont, but of course, Holly Holm caught a case of COVID, so she had to back out of this fight. And somehow Aspen Ladd was able to weasel herself into this fight after missing weight last week. I don't know how that happened. I guess just because she moved up the weight class to do it, and she knew she was going to be make that weight. So
Yeah,
I,
and
I I
I
guess
think
it
she
was
lives closer too.
yeah. So they knew that it was up the weight class. So it was going to be easy for her to do it, and it probably kept the main event intact. So I would just say thank you, Aspen Lad, for taking this fight on week notice, even though she was supposed to fight last week.
Yep.
But all in all, before we get started with this preview here, as always, this is Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. Of course, we're partnered with the Fighters First Network. All we ask you guys to do is go to Fighters First Network on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification button so you don't miss any of the content that we put out. And of course, we ask you to also please hit the like button. We're trying to get a lot of likes on our videos, so a lot of people view everything. That's why we do this. We do this so everyone can get their MMA content from somewhere. We hope it's from us, of course. And as always, we have merch out now. All you got to do is go to firesfirst.shop, check out the different collections that we have on there. And of course, one of the collections is our own, the Cage My IQ collection. All you got to do is go to firesfirst.shop, scroll down to the Cage My IQ collection, and look at the shirt that we have in three different styles, and then the hoodie we have out. As you see here, I got the Cage My IQ shirt on this week for the first time in a while. I didn't forget this time, so I got it on. It's very comfy. So ask you guys to check out our merch, buy some for any of your MMA fans. Have them check out our podcast, of course. And then, of course, we have a sponsor out now. So, we have High Tide Herbal. Use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. HighTideHerbal.com is a company owned by coaches and athletes that specialize in speedy recovery. They have CBD oil in all the products, and the goal with High Tide Herbal is to help athletes recover faster. Uh, let, right before we get started, I just want to get your opinion on this card as a whole before we get started with the main card preview. What did you think when it was first announced? And then, of course, with the main event being changed to Lad versus Dumont.
Well, I loved the matchup Dumont Holly Holm. I thought that was a perfect matchup.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be fireworks. I had all my notes written for it just weeks ago because I was
yeah,
excited. I like watching Holly Holm fight. And Norma Dumont, a guest of our show, was always is always an exciting fighter. Then it gets canceled, and I'm like, oh Jesus, who's going to fill in the spot? And in walks Aspen Lad, right? Somebody that we've talked about last week. Kind of hit the scales a little rough. Maybe I know we can talk about that all day, but when it comes to this card, there's definitely going to be fireworks on this card. The main card in particular,
Yeah.
there's a ton of heavy hitters in this. I'm looking forward to this card. It's pretty cool that it's back-to-back weeks with two female fighters headlining the cards. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned it also. I interviewed Norma Dumont a week or two ago. So if you want to check out that interview, just go to the Fighters First YouTube channel. Go to the video section, and it's one of the first videos on top. So definitely
Yep.
check that out. Let us know what you think. If you need to learn a little bit about her, watch the video. She was a nice person. Took time out of her day to do the interview, so I just want to thank her a lot right now. But let's get started with the main card right here. It was a
All right.
fight main card. Um, the first fight that we have on tap is a middleweight matchup between Durian Marquez versus Jordan Wright. Durian Marquez comes in at 9-2, is the minus 230 favorite, whereas Jordan Wright comes in at 12-1 and is the plus 190 underdog. Marquez is a brute who looks to put power into his shots. He likes to throw a combination of the left hook and straight right. He likes to get into the clinch and throws knees to the body and elbows to the head. He's all about forward pressure. He tends to give up his back on the ground so he can get up. And he uses a Kimura trap along the fence, which can be questionable. He is durable and has good pace. He has poor takedowns and needs to improve his balance on takedowns. He likes to go for double leg takedowns and body locks into leg trips. Then you got Jordan Wright, who's a southpaw who likes to throw singular strikes. He usually throws the straight right, but also likes to use body kicks, spinning heel kick, and teep to the body. He has a real nice high kick and uses power with his shots. He tends to reach for his opponents within distance. He rarely looks for takedowns and prefers to keep the fight on the feet. He has good takedown defense, but has poor striking defense in the pocket and has a bad chin. Plus, he has good feints and movement. Jim, what are your thoughts of this fight, and who do you have winning?
Yeah, so I actually have Julian Marquez winning this fight. I believe both are really good on the feet. Wright throwing a very high volume, but his striking defense is lacking. He's very hittable. Both are also very good at submissions. You talked about the Kimuras and giving up his back, but they have 9 submissions between the submission wins between both of them. The reason why I picked Julian Marquez on this is that I think he's a better counter striker than Jordan Wright. And like you said, he's a brute, so he's going to move forward in this. And when Wright's throwing one at a time, you didn't say, like, he does throw a high volume. I think he throws about 7 punches per minute, but he absorbs almost 8 per minute. And all Julian needs is one punch. We know how much power he has behind those punches. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Julian's going to bulldoze his way in, pick the right spot, clip Jordan in the second round, and knock him out. So I see Julian Marquez getting a second round knockout.
What makes this fight interesting, the fact is, kind of one of the weaknesses Marcus has had is his takedown defense. He's not really good at stopping the takedowns. You saw that in the Miki Patolo fight, where he just kept on getting taken down. And what kind of allowed him to get in that fight was the fact that Patolo kind of tired himself out. And then Marcus has pretty good cardio. So he was able to just withstand it until he had that time to get the submission. He's not going to have to worry about this in this fight. I think Wright's going to want to stand up and trade. He's going to be the guy from distance just throwing those leg kicks. He throws 3-4 different style leg kicks. And then here it's going to mix in a little bit of the power shots here and there. But it's going to be majority of the leg kicks. And you're going to see Marquez kind of want to, I think when he shoots in for the clinch, I think he's more so just going to shoot in to push him against the cage, because then he's going to keep him from being able to back up because he's going to be against the cage. So he's not going to be able to move anywhere. And I think that's where he's going to pick and choose where he throws at, because he's calculated with his striking. Like he'll attack the body, he'll attack the head. He does throw a couple leg kicks here and there, but I think what he's going to do is just try and wear out Jordan Wright. with the different shots. And you're going to see him try and lock in like a few submissions here and there. He's going to go for openings because that's how he's won the last 2 fights. He's
Yeah,
won
he's good
by
at taking the
submission.
back.
Yeah, he's good at taking the back. So if he has an opening, he's going to look for it. But I'm going to agree with you. But I think this is going to be a first round knockout. I think he's going to
Oh,
get
wow.
it done. He's on a roll right now. Jordan Wright. There's just not anything special with him. Like he's 12-1, but I haven't really seen him beat anybody worth noting. Whereas I know Sam Alvey's not the best win, but he is UFC caliber, and he's still in the UFC, and he has a fight next month. But Marquez beat him. He beat Patullo. He did get a couple wins before the two-year hiatus that he had. I just think he's on the way up. He has that knockout power and the threat to submit you, and he has the cardio on his side. So I'm going to go with Julian Marquez by first round knockout. I think he gets it done.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that a lot of people underestimate Marquez in terms of his submission game. And he is deceptively quick at taking the back. And I think that that's one thing that's going to play into this fight. Like you said, he's going to get right to the cage, look to work the clinch, and as he's working the clinch, try to sneak in and take that back. So I at first thought like maybe he'd get a choke in there, but I'm going to go knockout. I'm going to stick with my gut and go with what you said too. Your first round, I'm second round. It's nice to be on the same page.
Yeah, I think that the one note to remember in the notes that I took was the fact that Jordan Wright, he doesn't like getting hit inside the pocket. His defense is just bad. So I think that's why I'm saying that is I think when he gets pushed against the cage, he's basically going to be right inside of Jordan Wright's pocket, and he's just going to be able to unload on him. And I don't think he's going to be good at blocking it. So I think it's going to get started from the get-go. You think it's second round. Either way, we both have the same scenario, which is Julian Marquez victory.
Yep.
But let's move on to the second fight on the card here. We have a women's flyweight matchup that's going to pit Marion Pharaoh versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Pharaoh comes in at 7-1 and is the minus 210 favorite, whereas Bueno Silva comes in at 7-1-1 and is the plus 175 underdog. Pharaoh is a southpaw who has a karate background. She is very aggressive where she looks to get into your face and do damage. She has great range control and tends to throw the check right hook from that range. When she's attacking close, she uses the 1-2-2-1 and she throws side kicks to body and knees. She looks to clinch up when her opponents look to close distance. She likes to look for underhooks to defend the clinch takedowns and tends to hold on to them too long. She has power and kill instinct, but needs to improve grappling tendencies. Then you got Silva, who likes to come in with forward pressure and attack into the clinch, where she swings with her elbows and throws her knees. She throws a straight right in which she generates pop, and she tends to lean back to avoid strikes. She has a habit of squaring her stances when she's at defense. She has a black belt in BJJ. She likes to attack with submissions on the ground and is dangerous on her back. She has power in her hands and needs work on defending shots on the ground. She likes to cut off the cage to go after her opponent, and she has good cardio. Jim, what do you think of this fight, and who do you have winning?
Yeah, this was a tough one to pick because of the contrast in style. But I'm going to piggyback on some of the things that you had said about during your fight preview. I'm actually going with Manon Pharaoh. She's relentless on her feet and averages 8 punches per minute. And is going up against Mayra Bueno Silva, who absorbs 5 punches per minute. So again, like you said, she needs to work on that striking defense. Bueno Silva really has to get this fight to the ground. But I believe that's going to be a tough task because Fiorot's she has a 100% takedown defense in the UFC, and she has a very good base at blocking this and stopping those takedowns. Once she's on the ground, it's a whole other story, but getting the takedown on her is going to prove to be a little harder than I think Mayra Bueno Silva's camp believes. All that put together has me leaning towards a first round knockout by Manon Fiorot.
Yeah, this was a fun one to do research on because I remember watching both these people fight. Fiorot, I believe, is the one that knocked out Richie. Richie took the fight on a couple of days' notice when Fiorot's opponent had to back out due to injury, and then Bueno Silva fought. I believe it was who was it? They fought to a draw because the holding on to the cage.
Was it Luciana
De
Carolina?
La Rosa, Montana De
Okay.
La Rosa, and she had trouble taking down De La Rosa, and then that's what happened was the hole in the cage,
Yeah.
and I think what is good with this matchup is the burst of energy from Pharaoh. She can just come at you, and she attacks you, and one thing Brenda Silva is going to do is, like I said, she's going to want to get the mat because she's a submission technician. She can lock in any submission from any point while on the ground. She does have power striking, but she's not really accurate with it, and it's a work in progress. It's just that she loads up and throws,
Yeah.
and when she connects, she does damage, but it's never going to connect accurately. Whereas somebody like Pharaoh, she has a wide range of throws that she does from distance. She likes like I said, the side kick. She likes the running with the body. She likes to throw stuff at the body. She likes to use her knees. She just does everything from a distance and uses that long frame of hers. And I could see this where it could go both ways because I think Pharaoh can make a mistake with throwing a leg kick and it could get used against her, where she could Brenda Silva could take the back and lock in a submission. But I think what's going to happen is she's going to just piece apart Brenda Silva with the kicks, the knees. She's going to close the distance and just load up on her. And I think what's going to do Brenda Silva is an elbow to the face. I think they're going to get clinched up against the cage. I know I said that last time, but I see these are two fighters that I can see pushed up against the cage. I think Silva's going to try and push her up against the cage to try and get her down. She's going to use that. She tried to do that, like I said, with De La Rosa and didn't really work out in her favor. I think she's going to try that with Fiorot because Fiorot, if she's not in distance, she's not going to be as good as she is inside the pocket, but she's going to be able to throw those elbows. I think one of those elbows is going to connect. I think it's going to stun her, and then I think she just pops her. I want to say first round knockout, but I'm going to go with second round knockout. I think it's going to take a little bit to find her way against Brenda Silva. She's going to take like half of the first round to just like feel her out, and then sometimes with fighters it takes a while to know what you're going to do, get a game plan going. But I think by round two, she's going to be able to knock her out after she hits her with the elbow.
Yeah, I mean, we both say knockout, and what we really mean is this is going to get a decision. That's usually how it works for us. Like, we do all the research, watching the fights, checking the stats, doing the notes, right? And everything points to a knockout. Like, you're like, oh, this is going to be an easy knockout. And then it's like, no, it's going to be a split decision. So, you never know what's going to happen. And you're right, this could absolutely go both ways. And there's a lot of like contrast of styles between most of these fighters. Like the next fight we're going to talk about, there's definitely a contrast of style as well. That's the similarities on this card. Is there's a lot of strikers, there's grapplers, and there's a lot of people who throw a high volume versus a lot of people who are more of because they're grapplers, their striking defense is a little suspect. What I like about Bueno Silva is that she's working with Shoot Boxing down in Brazil, which is producing some killers down there. So she's aware of the holes in her game, and I think that this is going to be a little hiccup in the road for her, but she's going to be on the big things.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun fight. When I saw it, I was like, okay. These, like you said, these contrasted styles always make for something good. I wouldn't be surprised if it went decision. If it went decision, I would still go Fiorot's way because she's going to have the high volume.
Yeah.
The only way could see Brenda Silva doing it is she could get the fight to the ground and get that control time. But like you said, Fiorot is good at defending that, so I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But to segue from that to the third fight on the card, which you kind of segued to a few seconds ago, we got a lightweight matchup between Jim Miller, who's going up against Erick Gonzalez. Erick Gonzalez is coming in as a replacement. Jim Miller was supposed to fight somebody else a couple weeks ago. He backed out, and then they were lucky enough to get Erick Gonzalez in on short notice. But Jim Miller comes in at 32-16. He is the minus 195 favorite, whereas Erick Gonzalez comes in at 14-5 and is the plus 165 underdog. In this fight, Jim Miller is a southpaw who likes to throw singular shots. He likes to go for level changes whenever he sees openings to attack his opponent. He is really good at catching kicks and driving his opponents to the mat that way. He is savvy enough to spot slips and bad movements where he can grab and pull his opponent down. He is always dangerous on top where he looks to get him mount, look for arm bars or submissions. Even when tired, he can be dangerous on his back. His cardio is bad now, and he starts to gas after one round, but he's always a threat to lock in a submission. Whereas Gonzalez is a fighter with a good kicking game from range. He likes to throw leg kicks, body kicks, and high kicks. He throws a jab, 1-2, and an overhand shot. He has decent speed, high volume most of the time, and good pace. He has bad takedown defense and needs to work on defending the submissions on the mat. Jim, what do you think about this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Well, I love when people make their UFC debut because then I get to dive deep and go down a rabbit hole of their previous fights if they're available. And I did that with Erick Gonzalez, and I really like what I see from him. I think he's going to be, if Dana gives him another shot after this, I think he's going to be a good addition to the lightweight division. But with that being said, I see Jim Miller picking up the win. Gonzalez's last 6 fights have gone 3 rounds with 1 finish. I've watched a few of those, and it leads me to believe that he's being a little more disciplined and picking his shots. As of late, Miller, like you said, usually gasses out at the first round, but most of his fights either go the distance or he gets the early sub, which is what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think that Miller's going to take advantage of Gonzalez's UFC debut, maybe some big debut jitters, and suspect takedown defense. He's going to get him down in the first round, and I believe I'm going with a guillotine. I think he's going to choke him out, get that first round victory. It's amazing that Jim Miller is still fighting and fighting at a high level. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just going in here as like some schlub. He's going in there and he's killing people. Not killing people. He's not Arn Anderson, but he's in there, just doing work. And I appreciate that about Jim Miller, Jersey's own Jim Miller. So again, I'm going Jim Miller with a first round guillotine. And honestly, by looking at all of my picks, the main card is going to be a quick night based on what I'm first round getting out of here. First round, 3 fights. I might need to look a little bit deeper in my picks. Right? Is this a 2:00 card? Because we'll be done by dinner time.
I saw this matchup and I was just like, if there wasn't a matchup that couldn't been any better for Jim Miller, as a replacement, this is the guy, because what this guy does is use a lot of leg kicks, and just like I said in the notes, Jim Miller is really good at catching leg kicks and using that to take guys down. And then on top of that, Erick Gonzalez has horrible takedown defense. So it's just a recipe for disaster for Erick Gonzalez. And I think what's going to happen is just that. I think he's going to try and use the leg kicks. I think early on he's going to throw the calf kick because it's going to be low. But then I think he's going to get itchy. He's going to start higher up his leg kick to the body and to the head. And I think when he does it to the body, Jim Miller's he knows it's going to come out, because Jim Miller's not going to throw too many strikes. Nowadays, he's usually in that 15 to 30 significant strike range. He doesn't throw too much. He looks to grapple now because he's trying not to wear himself out. And like I said,
Yeah,
he
for
tires
sure.
himself out early. So I think he's going to time those leg kicks. He's going to try and catch them. He's going to get a hold of one of them. He's going to throw him down to the mat. And then for me, I think he's going to jump on top. He's going to look for the armbar. If he doesn't get it, I think he's going to go for the head. And he's going to lock in the Doss choke. And I think he's going to get a first round submission via Doss choke. I think he's going to do it, and I think it's going to happen, no matter what. I think this is for me. This is a wrap for me, where I think Jim Miller is going to win by submission in the first round. I think it's just inevitable.
Nice. I mean, listen, we're both on the same page with an early night
Yeah,
for most of these fighters. I think this is a layup for Jim Miller as stylistically. We know once the cage door closes and all bets are off and anything could possibly happen. But just statistically, stylistically, Erick Gonzalez is at a disadvantage. I'd like to see him full camp opponent that is similar in styles with him.
yeah.
I'd like to see that as like maybe another fight if he doesn't win this one. But Gonzalez is a dangerous dude, and he can point fight his way to a victory. But I'm still gonna ride with Jim Miller. We are 3 for 3 so far. I'm curious to see where we go with this one because I know where you stand on the main event.
Yep. But moving on from this, let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. We got a heavyweight bout between Andrei Arlovski going up against Carlos Felipe. In this fight, Arlovski comes in at 31-20. He is the minus 110 favorite, whereas Carlos Felipe comes in at 11-1, and he's also minus 110 as well, but as the underdog. You got Arlovski, who is a counter fighter that looks to be defensive and cautious. He likes to throw the counter straight right and a lower calf kick. He used to throw combinations and burst at opponents, but now he only throws singular strikes and moves slower. He tends to have his hands low after clinch breaks. He has decent takedown defense, but has low volume now in fights, and he has a suspect chin. And then he has poor grappling cardio, but decent striking cardio. Then you got Felipe, who has a heavy boxing background. He has a high guard and likes to pressure his opponents. He likes to throw combinations. He throws the jab and the overhand right. He will change levels so he can attack the body with his jab. He tends to not check leg kicks and he overextends at times, throwing his right hand at the body. He has speed with his striking. He is very durable and has a good chin. He is very one dimensional and needs to improve his clinch defense. Jim, what do you think of this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Well, if you look at records, it's the vet versus the up and coming fighter, right? So we always love to see these type of matchups. Every time I see Andrei Arlovski's name on a fight card, I'm like, oh, this might be it for him. He's going up against this young guy. He might be in that gatekeeper role, and he always just proves me wrong. So I'm going to go with Andrei Arlovski in this fight. And part of the reason why I picked it is because of what you said about the leg kicks and Felipe not checking them. I feel that Felipe is really good on his feet and has power, to your points, but he is hittable. Arlovski is good at keeping distance and doing enough to get it to the judges, which is what I think is actually going to happen. With Felipe being hittable, I think he's going to use his jab and his leg kicks to keep Felipe moving back and just take this to the judges, do just enough to get the win. I'm going split decision, Andrei Arlovski.
Going into this fight, I had Arlovski by decision, but as I was reading those notes, I flipped the script on myself just for the fact that the past couple fights that I watched Arlovski, like I said, he's had low volume. He's become more of like a counter fighter where he kind of wants to go to decision. He doesn't want to
Hmm.
go after you. He wants to just let you go after him, and then he counters it and just throws at it, and then usually somehow with the low volume gets to the decision and gets the win, except for that loss to Tom Aspen, who is a boxer.
Yeah.
He's had some favorable matchups, but I think this is a bad matchup for him. And the more I look at it, Carlos Felipe has he has great cardio, a good chin, and he has a good boxing background. And I think all he needs to do is like just rack up the volume. Doesn't have to be crazy, but just enough to steer some rounds, and knowing that Arlovski is gonna like pour out a lot against him. He's not gonna try and knock him out. He's and Arlovski's just trying to survive and win now in his career. I think this is an easy uh, decision victory for Felipe. He doesn't have to worry about getting taken down because I don't think Arlovski's going to try and do that. So the one-dimensional aspect of his game is not going to be like a bad note against him because it's going to be a stand-up fight the whole time anyway. So he can focus on just picking and throwing at Arlovski, rack up the volume, and then I could see him winning 2-1. I could see a round where maybe he, like maybe round 2 or round 1, where Arlovski can keep the distance and just defend a little bit against him and clinch up a little bit to keep him from doing it. But I think with that cardio issues that Arlovski tends to have now, I could see Felipe running away with this one by decision just by outboxing him.
Okay. I hold Arlovski's leg kicks in high praise.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that Felipe doesn't check them and he is a big heavyweight, like he looks like he has to cut weight, to get down to the 266 maximum. But I feel like that's where it's going to be decided on the leg kicks. If he can kick him and just chop him down and kick that lead foot or that lead leg, Felipe's not going to be able to move forward to get into, boxing, get his stand up working and get his footwork working. He's going to become flat footed, move forward, and then he's going to favor that front leg, maybe even switch stances. And then Andrei's going to be able to kind of chop down at the other leg and keeping the volume lower. So that's the only reason why I picked Arlovski. This was, and I told you this during the pre-show, I think that this was the hardest one for me. Yeah. Because this is very much like Tom Aspinall versus Andrei Arlovski, where it is a boxing background and it is an unfavorable matchup. I think between the two, obviously Aspinall, I think, is a better fighter than Carlos Felipe at this point in his career. But I was on the fence with this one. I'm just going to sit with Arlovski because he always proves me wrong, and this will be the one where he loses, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm done with picking you, but we'll see.
Yeah, I went with Felipe just because of the style matchup. I feel like the boxing's the thing that's been Arlovski's downfall in his past couple losses. So I'm going to go with Felipe, the underdog here. I feel like this could go either way, but I feel like it's going to go this decision no matter what, and I'm going to go with Felipe just because his cardio, and I feel like he can edge him in the volume department.
Yeah, and if Arlovski loses this fight, there's always AEW. He can follow JDS and make his debut against Chris Jericho.
Yep. But let's go from the co-main event to the main event of the evening. We have a women's featherweight matchup between Aspen Ladd going up against Norma Dumont. Aspen Ladd comes in at 9-1 and is the -150 favorite, whereas Norma Dumont comes in at 6-1 and is the +125 underdog. First, you got Aspen Ladd, who likes to walk her opponents down and get in their face. She tends to follow them around the cage instead of cutting them off and doesn't move her head off the line. She has boxing background and likes to lead with the left hook and throw straight right afterwards. She has a nice leg trip off her body lock. She has good aggression and has great ground and pound. She is hittable at times. It is too predictable with her game plan at times, but she can throw for a lot of volume. Whereas Norma Dumont is an aggressive fighter who likes to switch stances and throw combinations. She has a background in Sanda and Muay Thai. She usually sits down on her punches where she has a nice 1-2 and 3-2. She has good low calf kick. She likes to go for the body lock and the leg trips to get her opponents to the mat, and she can be heavy on top. She has power behind her strikes, and she has a good pace. Jim, what do you think of this main event, and who do you have winning?
First, I love this main event. I like the matchup because these two are brawlers. I think it's a good matchup, and under normal circumstances, regarding a late opponent change, I definitely go with Dumont. But like you said earlier, to intro this whole show, Lat isn't coming off the couch, and she's going up in weight, which will benefit her after the last time we saw her hit the scales. I'm actually going to go with Dumont, as I believe that she is the more accurate striker, and has a good base and good takedown defense to negate those takedowns that Lad tends to search for and hunt for. Plus, being heavy on top is a very good benefit card to have in her deck. The one thing that will be interesting is how she will fare against Lad's takedowns. Um,
Yeah.
but with that good base, I think she's going to be able to stop them. Um, Also, 5 fight main event, so maybe gas tank issues we'll see. We've never seen either one of these girls go 5 rounds, so we don't know what their gas tank looks like. So that's interesting to note as well. This is a big moment for Aspen Ladd because this could be the right division for her. She didn't look healthy last weekend, and it was scary to see her on the scales wobbling like that. So this is essentially her tryout for the next, that next weight class. But ultimately, I think Dumont gets it done, and I see her getting it done within all 5 rounds, and I think she's going to get the decision.
This is going to be a fun fight to watch. I see this fight. There's a couple of things I look into this. How's Norma Dumont going to do against the takedowns? I thought she did very well against Felicia Spencer, who's
Hmm.
known for her grappling. Not as much. I don't think she went for the grappling as much as she should have against Norma Dumont, but whenever she did, I felt like Norma Dumont held her own. Then you got to look at the other side of things. How's Aspen Ladd going to look after that weight cut issue that she had, where she basically fainted last week? I know that's weight class below, and now she's going to be able to fight at this weight class at featherweight. But how's she going to feel? How is her cardio and her health are going to be a week after just having all those issues and everything? How's she going to do? And then on top of that, she's coming in without fighting in the last 2 years. Right beforehand, she had a nice three fight run where she went 2-1. She had beat Kanitskaya by
Hmm.
KO. She lost to GDR by KO, and then she beat uh, Sajara Eubanks.
Yeah.
Those are three tough fights there down in that weight class where she was able to go 2-1, and she puts in anywhere from like 80 to 90, but 70 to 90 strikes a fight now with that boxing. But now she's fighting somebody else who boxes as well and can move around.
Yeah.
She's not. She hasn't had the opponents that Aspen Lad has had, but she does have that Sonda background, the kickboxing, where she can move from distance. And I think those leg kicks are going to be an important factor for Norma Dumont here. Being able to throw those from a distance, move around, just take her time, try and match the volume count with her. If she can do that, with the combination of her strike boxing and the leg kicks against the boxing of Lad, and then if she can stop the takedowns, I got Norma Dumont by decision here, just because I think the takedowns are going to be a big deal for a Lad. Because when you look at it, a lot of that volume is when she takes her opponent down and does ground and pound. You don't
Yeah.
look at that unless you go right into the actual stats. You see that other, like, it's usually split between strikes on the feet and then the ground and pound. It's usually like 50-50.
Yeah.
If she can keep the fight standing up, it'll be good for Norma Dumont, because I think she'll keep Aspen Lad to like 40, like 30 to 50 strikes, and I think that's doable to steal this by decision. But if Aspen Lad can take her down a couple of times, then I think Aspen Lad wins this, just because she'll be able to get the control time and then rack up the with ground and pound and with shots on the ground. That's just her bread and butter there, like rotating the boxing to the grappling. But I'm
Yeah.
going to go with Norma Dumont by unanimous decision victory. I got her at 3-2.
Okay. To your first point, I think Aspen Ladd's going to look like a killer in this
Yeah,
division. I think she's going to look super healthy. She's already strong. Her cardio has been good. She trains at elevation, like in elevation, so I think that that's going to be really good for her. It's also stylistically, and that's the word of the episode, stylistically. It's a completely different style than Holly Holm. So Norma Dumont has to adjust on the fly within 1 week. Holly Holm's the kickboxer. She's going to come in there and use a variety of leg kicks and body kicks, whereas Aspen Ladd's going to, box and then try to get you to the
yeah,
ground. So, this 1 week training could really benefit Aspen Ladd, where Norma's going to have to really feel that threat of the takedown is going to be there constantly. But I'm not gonna change. I'm a homer. You can say what you want. She's been on our show. I'm going
yeah,
Norma Dumont by decision as well.
yeah. I just think that the training for a couple of months at the weight class below, and then also having to go right to featherweight after having that weigh in that just looked like she was just
Yeah,
unhealthy. And then the next week go into a 5-round fight and main event where you were just going to be in a 3-round fight. That's a
yeah,
big deal. Whereas Norma Dumont has been uh, like training for a 5-round fight the whole time. Well, not for over a month since originally it's supposed to be Tate and Ketlin Vieira in the main event,
yeah,
but she said over a month to train for 5 rounds, whereas Atlanta has had only less than a week to, plus
yeah.
the
But
weight
this,
cut issues.
yeah, this could be her walk around weight though. Like we don't the weight with women is always a touchy subject, and we don't know the specifics on Aspen Ladd's weight cut. So it might have just been something, you know, terrible that happened during that weight cut. But this could be like a natural weight that she
Yeah,
walks around with, or that she trained at. So she may be used to carrying the extra weight. She may not be used to carrying the extra weight. So it could go either way. But I think that honestly, for Aspen Ladd's career and safety, I think 145 is a better weight class for her. But we'll
and
see.
yeah. Just one side note, it like even though it might be the weight that she carries, it changes a fighter when you move up or down
Oh, for
a
sure, for
division.
sure.
Like she might lose a little bit of speed that she usually has, and she might have to rely more on her grappling because she's not as fast because she
Yeah,
has used that. So it'll be interesting to see how she is at this division. I think she'll be fine in the long run. I'm not sure about this fight, and that's why I'm leaning heavily towards Norma Dumont. But I think in the long run she'll be good.
yeah. I think the one thing that we really didn't say about this card, all fights aside, is that like most of these matchups are fairly close betting odds wise.
Yeah.
It's not like the Lauren Murphy versus Shevchenko where it was like 14
Yeah.
negative 1400. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
no huge underdog on this card, and I think that that's something that like I think the odds makers won in this one because they gave you uh, essentially pick'ems, and I like that. I like that when you go in there and there's no really clear cut winner. But we'll see, man. Anything's possible.
And one of my closing statements I'm going to get before we get on out of here is when I looked at this card, there's a lot of submission artists on this
For
card,
sure.
more than usual. Like you got Eubanks, you got Jim Miller, of course, Durian Marquez, and then whatnot. Even Arlovski can do it. Can submit you here and there.
Yep.
There's a
Bueno
lot of
Silva.
Brennan Silva. There's a lot on this card. Usually there's one or two. There's more. There's like at least 5 or 6 on this card, which is fun because I tend to like submission artists uh, the most because I like seeing how they can get to to their victory, how they can lock in one of those submissions, transition from side to side and to try and lock it in. And it's just fun to see how they can get the process started in doing that. But all in all, I think this is going to be a very fun card this Saturday. I would tell everybody right now to go watch it.
Yep.
and like because it's gonna make you happy watching these fights compared to this Saturday. I think it's going to be twice as good, and it's going to surprise people.
Yeah, this is a great card. Super underrated card. I know a lot of fans online aren't really feeling it, but I think
Yeah,
this is, again, going to surprise a lot of people. And it's a good lead into what's going to be an amazing card next week with Costa and Vittori. So watch this, watch our show, watch everything Dan does. He's absolutely crushing it. And yeah, it's going to be a good one.
but that's going to wrap things up for this UFC Fight Night Norma Dumont versus Aspen Lad preview with yours truly, D Bake and James DiLullo. You can check us out next week as once again what Jim said, we're going to be previewing a UFC Fight Night, which is headlined by Paulo Costa against Marvin Vittori. That's going to be a banger of a main event. But as always, once again, this is Cage by IQ, the best place for MMA content. Just go to the Fighters First YouTube page. Once again, subscribe, hit the notification button, and please hit the like button on this video. Let us know in the comment section what you think of our predictions, and let us know what your predictions are, and I'll check them out and it'll like all the comments on there. But that's what we do every week. We do this to try and get conversation started, and just trying to see who everybody likes come fight night. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in every week, and thanks for tuning in to do this preview. And I will see you guys this Monday as me and Miles will be recapping the fight. But until then, we will talk to you guys later. Have a good night.